All right, obviously something's going to pop up on your side and you just say that you accept that it's being recorded. But otherwise, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning from wherever you might be. I'm sure that it's cold. This morning, we're quite fortunate and we've got our very own Lemise that's going to be running the presentation this morning. And I know that she is quite nervous, this being her first presentation, but from all the friendly faces that I know that are here, I know that it's going to be completely fine. If you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to post them in the chat. I'll be monitoring it. Otherwise, you can pop up your hand and ask any questions. Just please do keep yourself muted if you do have any background noise. If not, you're more than welcome to pipe in wherever you have a question. And then, of course, the session is recorded, as you can all see, and the recording will be made available on our website. So we are equally fortunate to have Mirfin join us this morning. Mirfin Valuation Services has obviously been around for a very long time. I'm sure they need no introduction. However, they have kindly accepted our invitation to chat to us this morning for about 15 minutes before we get into the presentation. And I've made Amy the co-host, and you can see that Amy's busy sharing her slides as well. Amy's slides, as well as Lemise's slides, will be made available on our website along with the recording, so you don't have to worry about taking notes or anything along those lines. And like I said, we'll be strict to end at 11 o'clock, that anybody that has registered for the WIST seminar can get going on to that. So without further ado, I'll be keeping an eye on the waiting room and let people in. But Amy, I'd like to hand over to you.
Perfect. Hi, Zelinda, and thank you very much for including us in your webinar today. We were very excited that we received the invitation, so thank you very much. And hi, everyone. My name is Amy. I'm part of the marketing and communications team at Mirfin. So Zelinda kind of gave us the opportunity just to chat through a few of our service offerings. So we really decided today just to focus on the 10-year plan. So as you all know, like we're part of, the insurance valuation sector, but we also offer a legally compliant 10-year maintenance plan. So Mirfin's 10-year plan is really centered around the principle of being affordable as well as realistically executable. And what we've really focused on is providing a service that can be adjusted to suit the body corporate's needs. From the technical requirements to the scheduling requirements to the body corporate's financial capability. So at Mirfin, we really do believe that a 10-year plan is a living document. It should be periodically adjusted in accordance with actual quotations that you do receive from contractors for different maintenance projects. So to make it easier for both trustees and managing agents, we have created this exclusive online dashboard that offers financial planning tools for calculating levy contributions and for creating long-term cash flow projections for both the reserve fund and the admin fund. Let me just pop over to the next slide. So a big focus is with Mirfin's customer dashboard, you can manage the reserve fund cash flow with a real-time view. So you can see changes in the levy contributions immediately and create multiple financial scenarios for your body corporate. And better yet, you can reuse the 10-year plan year on year by easily updating the key financial parameters. As well as the reserve fund planning, we also offer the admin fund planning tools. So you can use Mirfin's online dashboard to make it easier to make live adjustments to the admin fund with its self-calculating feature. And with a 10-year plan cash flow projection, you can manage your body corporate's finances in conjunction with the reserve fund. So I'm just going to pop over to a video that we actually put together. I'm hoping it will play. Perfect. And this just gives you an overview of how you can use Mirfin's online dashboard to easily manage the 10-year plan.
The trustees of a body corporate have the responsibility to set up a sound 10-year maintenance plan. It must aim to preserve and extend the useful life of the major capital assets that make up the capital value of the joint investment known as your community scheme. Such preventative activities include the maintenance of built structures such as walls, roofs, elevators, and paved areas, as well as bulk supply systems for water and electricity. The most cost-intensive items for community schemes tend to be exterior painting and waterproofing. While the 10-year maintenance plan is often delegated to an independent service provider, the onus remains on the trustees to keep it relevant and meaningful. A service provider can set up the basic framework that comprises a contemporary snapshot of cost estimates and scheduling recommendations. But the maintenance plan must be kept dynamic, with regular updates and rolled over from year to year, instead of compiling a static document from scratch every year that has no continuity. The trustees are in the best position to give the 10-year plan continuity and make ongoing adjustments to suit the body corporate's specific needs and financial capabilities. It is, therefore, essential that the service provider delivers a 10-year maintenance plan that is easily understandable and customizable for the client. This 3-minute tutorial will explain the features and functions of Mirfin's online dashboard that hand full control of the 10-year maintenance plan to the trustees. To access your 10-year maintenance plan online, click the blue button in the lower right corner of any page of the PDF 10-year plan. Go to the Reserve Fund tab to manage your maintenance plan. A line item can be deleted by clicking the minus icon. The divide icon splits the maintenance activity into multiple phases and automatically staggers the costs accordingly, taking the effect of inflation into account. The Add button inserts a new line item. Select the appropriate options from the drop-down lists to describe the asset category, asset condition, and maintenance required. You can even add a comment for future reference. When you obtain a cost estimate from a contractor or service provider, this can be entered into the column titled Estimated Maintenance Cost Today. The maintenance schedule can be adjusted by selecting the year of next maintenance from the drop-down options provided, or by typing the year. The recurring maintenance cycle can be set under Repeat Every in accordance with the asset's estimated lifespan. By default, the table displays all input columns and a limited number of output columns, representing year 1, year 2, and so forth. Click this link to hide the non-essential input columns and display all output columns up to year 10, allowing you to observe in real time the effects of your adjustments across all years. The levy contribution panel over here indicates the effect your changes have made on the levy per square meter. A detailed levy contribution schedule per each registered section will be included in the PDF version of your 10-year plan, which you can generate by clicking the PDF icon. To reset all values back to the last saving point, simply refresh your browser window. To restore a previously saved version, go to the Timeline tab and select your preferred version. As you can see, the Mirfin dashboard enables you to create multiple financial scenarios to be voted on at the annual general meeting. Click the displayed link to learn how to easily transform your 10-year maintenance plan into a 10-year cash flow forecast.
Perfect. So that's really just kind of an overview of our 10-year plan offering alongside the Mirfin dashboard. Our team is very excited. It's been a long project that's kind of in the working, and our main focus is really to focus on making it a flexible, dynamic financial planning tool that body corporates can use in terms of their day-to-day maintenance projects. So yeah, you guys are welcome to contact us on info@mirfin.co.za. You can visit mirfin.co.za for a free quotation. We also have a bunch of tutorial videos on our YouTube channel, one of them being the 8-step guide to setting up a financial roadmap for your body corporate. And if you guys have any questions, you can get in touch via those channels. Thanks, Zelinda.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Amy. Now, everybody knows me that I'm technologically challenged, but if it really is as simple as that, then I don't think that there is an excuse not to have a maintenance, repair, and replacement plan. And Lemise will confirm, but we still consult with people today, 4 years on, that do not have maintenance, repair, and replacement plans. So come on, guys, it's that easy. Please do make sure that you've got it in place for your sectional title schemes. We will be taking some questions on the chat function as well as after the session, but in the meantime, I'd like to hand over to Lemise. So for those of you that don't know, Lemise joined us on the 7th of June as a consultant. Lemise comes to us with a wealth of experience as a managing agent. And the topic that she's going to be chatting to us today, the ins and outs of common property maintenance, or rather maintenance and sectional title schemes, is something that I think is very popular and very misunderstood. And in the short few weeks that Lemise has been with us, she's already taught me a thing or two when it comes to the practical realities of maintenance, especially waterproofing and damp proofing and all those fun things. So Lemise, over to you.
Thanks, Alinda. Let me just share my screen. Okay, you should be able to see my presentation.
Yes, just put it on play from start.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. As Alinda said, this will be my first presentation, but it's probably not going to be the last one either. So yeah, we're going to talk about the ins and outs of maintenance. It's going to be pretty basic, but bear with me if you can. So during my development as a young adult, there were a few conversational topics I picked up that are on the controversial side, but it obviously depends on your audience. And these I've come to learn are politics, religion, how to raise your kids, and maintenance and sectional title schemes. So the first three could probably turn the best of friends into enemies, but luckily for us, with sectional title maintenance, we can refer to our old faithful, the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act. And if that doesn't help us, we can always go to CSOS. So I thought that we would go back to the basics and look at this picture, which everybody should be fairly familiar with, as it comes from the Demystifying Sectional Title book by Marina Constance and others. So you could see here that it clearly shows us where the median line is and how the median line then separates your section and your common area. And that is also defined by the Sectional Titles Act, sorry. And a section is also then defined as a unit with an undivided share in the common area. Moving on to our next slide. So a common thing that people experience within these sections is mold. And mold is sometimes often confused with damp. So these images right here gives you an indication as to what mold looks like. Okay, mold is often created or caused by condensation. So if, for example, you're having a really good night's sleep, especially during winter, and you get up and you check your window, you'll see that there is condensation that has settled. And if that condensation is not allowed to evaporate, mold will then often occur. And the same applies to a bathroom ceiling. So if you're showering and you don't open your window afterwards, that steam creates condensation on your ceiling, which then results in mold. It's fairly easy to clean, but it's unfortunately not a body corporate problem to sort out. As managing agents, you get a phone call and you're like, I have mold in my bathroom, I have mold in my bedroom, there's damp somewhere, there's a water leak. It's probably because of poor ventilation. Then switch to the next one. So this is generally a bad situation of damp that has happened, and damp is usually caused by a leak, and a leak you'll find in a pipe. And if you have an adjoining wall between, for example, your bedroom and your kitchen, there's a pipe that runs through that wall, or a pipe that runs through the wall between your bedroom and your bathroom. And 9 out of 10 times it's because there is a leak in that pipe, or the waterproofing in your shower wasn't done correctly. And so the best way to figure that out is to get a leak detection specialist to come in, or waterproofing specialist to come and check that situation out. Where that leak in that pipe occurs would depend on, or would determine, who is responsible for the repair of that pipe. So for example, if you have a wall within your section, that is your bedroom wall, and next to it is your bathroom wall, you will be responsible as the owner to have that leak fixed. But if that adjoining wall is your next door neighbor, or if it is a common area, it would then be your neighbor or your or the body corporate to fix that. However, again, a specialist needs to come in to determine where that leak is and then who is responsible for that. Okay. Then there is another possibility. This is rising damp, and it's the picture is pretty self-explanatory, but I'll try and take you through it. So I'm by no means technically qualified to explain the science behind rising damp, but the basic understanding of it is that moisture from below the ground rises up and penetrates into the concrete. When the foundation of a building is laid, a damp-proof course or a DPC must be installed to block any moisture from getting into the walls of the building. If that application is not done correctly or fails, then you will experience rising damp. And that is a simple explanation to it. And then if we can go back to this picture over here, as you can see where it shows the common property, the foundation forms part of the common property. And so therefore, if the DPC fails, the body corporate is liable to have that repaired. Then there is another option, if I could put it that way, for damp, and that would be penetrating damp. So most external walls have a cavity between them, between the internal and the external face. So this is an example of a cavity wall over here. The purpose of this cavity wall is to ensure that the inner leaf of the wall remains dry and that no moisture penetrates to the inside of a building. Where a cavity wall becomes blocked with debris and creates a breach from the external face to the internal face, penetrating damp can result on the internal face wall. Finding the cause of the problem always clarifies who is responsible for fixing the problem. Okay, so another hot topic that we often deal with as managing agents and also as consultants are who is responsible for replacing or repairing my window frame. Yes, anybody have experience in that?
Definitely.
Okay, so this is an example of a frame inside a section. So if we can refer back to our sectional plans. So we know that where the dotted line falls within a solid line, and it delineates a balcony or a patio, or even a garden area, that area falls within your section and is part of your PQ, right? Okay. So this example over here is of a balcony or a patio within a section. This area over here, if you can see my cursor on the inside, that's a frame. If that frame is faulty because it falls within your section, it is therefore for your cost to replace, to repair. And so body corporate is not affected by that cost in any way. If this frame over here on the outer side fails, this frame falls on your median line, and this would then be split 50-50 between body corporate and owner. And that is if this garden area over here is common property. That would be a 50-50 split. Next, we'll move to an exclusive use area. So this enclosed patio area is an exclusive use area. So it's common property with the exclusive use right. This frame is faulty for whatever reason, the body corporate replaces it, and the owner, and the cost of it is recovered from the owner. And
sorry,
then,
can we just go back to that
Sure.
one quickly? Just
Yeah.
on a point when it comes to exclusive use areas, you need to have a look at the sectional plan if it's registered, or you have a look at the wording of the rule, the conduct rule or the management rule if it's rule-based, because it is quite possible that the sectional plan or the rule will actually deal with the extent to which the exclusive use area actually goes, or deals with the extent of the exclusive use area from a responsibility perspective. It is possible, and it's normally in sectional plans, not so very much in rules, where it says that there is, in inverted commas, a median line type of context for an exclusive use area. In other words, the outer face of a wall, the inner face of the wall, or the midpoint of the wall. So before you automatically assume that it is 100% body corporate responsibility to repair, 100% owner's responsibility to pay for, just double check the sectional plan, double check the rules. And if they're both silent, then what Louise is saying is 100% correct. Sorry to interrupt you.
It's fine. Thanks, Linda. And then our old favorite is the window frame that falls within the section and on common property. Who is responsible to have this paid? So again, because of the median line that falls between the section and the common area, there is a 50-50 split between the body corporate and the owner. A question that was very common when I was practicing as a managing agent is when the act does it state that you have to split it between body corporate and owner. There isn't anything specific that says it. We have to refer back to the Sectional Titles Act and bring the median line into it. And that is why there's a 50-50 split. Okay, where am I with my notes? So this is just an example or a key point to remember when having your frames replaced or even repaired, is that whoever the installer is needs to ensure that the frame is sealed properly, and if waterproofing needs to be applied, that it is applied properly. I mean, no owner, unless they are technically au fait with the installation of frames or any kind of building construction, is going to know if it's been done correctly. So perhaps do your own research and ask the question of your installer. In my experience, once that window is installed, contractors are not likely to come back and have it fixed, especially if there's resultant damages that has occurred. So make sure you do your homework with regards to that. And then just as a few last points, wherever there is resultant damages to your unit, you should be able to approach the body corporate insurance to cover that resultant damages. You can check with your managing agent whether or not it would be covered, but the final say lies with your insurer. If it's been approved, if it's been rejected, ask for that proof to show that you are covered or you're not. And then just to tie back into the 10-year maintenance plan presentation that Amy presented, when I was practicing as a managing agent, it was difficult for us to set up 10-year maintenance plans, and so we approached external companies to do it. But the presentation that Amy presented to us today, if I was still a managing agent, I would definitely look into getting that, because from a practical point of view and the way that that it allows you to manipulate the plan is it would have made my life very easy. And just on that point, it is of utmost importance that the trustees, and to a degree, the owners of the body corporate, ensure that a 10-year maintenance plan is in place and exists for the respective body corporates. A rising damp issue, for example, can affect the structural integrity of a building if left unattended, which has a big liability cost for the trustees at the end of the day. And can become a compromising maintenance problem. And with all due respect, since October 2016, does anybody actually have an excuse not to have a 10-year maintenance plan in place? So make sure that you're compliant with the Act. If you need any assistance with that, Linda and I are here to help you. Mirfin is there to give you the 10-year maintenance plan. And that's my story.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lamise. If you don't mind, there we go. Stop sharing on your side. Fantastic. So we've got a question. When you have determined the responsibility and that the body corporate is responsible to repair at the cost of the owner concerned, you take into consideration the contribution that the owner has made to the scheme for exclusive use areas. For what period? For example, the financial period under discussion. So what is, Lamise, would you like to answer that?
I wouldn't say it would be for the financial period under discussion. I would say it is for as long as you've been contributing to the exclusive use area.
Great. Yeah, 100%. So, you know, and I'm also coming from the background of a managing agent, and Ruth is my ex-colleague that's online, so she can confirm whether or not it's being done any differently after my time. But in an ideal world, you would want a separate account for an exclusive use area for the contributions, that when something happens that you need to maintain and repair, you can actually go and have a look at what that owner has been contributing since they've been an owner, as opposed to having tried to decipher the levy statement, what has been paid, what has been charged, etc., etc. So it's a bit of a challenging one. I know on a budget, you also have to have the separate line items of an exclusive use area. On the maintenance, repair, and replacement plan, you also have the separate line items. Derek, I see you've got your hand up, and then we've got a couple more questions in the chat.
Yes, Zelinda. There's a interesting one that often happens is when you have a patio that forms part of a section which is not enclosed, and then the request is to enclose it, and it's be it that it's approved at a general meeting by the owners to say yes, we can do it, and you decide the spec. However, in Lemise's slide, which is actually a good point, where she had the patio and she referred about the internal doors, it might be good even if you share it, because I think it can be visible, is the ongoing maintenance from there, because it wasn't there before. It's not standard as how the complex was initially built. It's now add-on. So I'm raising a question to you, Zelinda, because this is, I think, a technical question which you would know all the time. Yeah, exactly. That slide there. This has now been the icon showed, but the aluminium doors on the median line of the section,
the inside, yeah.
That one, yes. Okay. Has now been added post, and then often disputes arrive as to who's responsible for the maintenance.
Yeah, always.
So it's very important that gets defined from the trustees up front.
Yeah.
So I think you know where I'm going with it.
Yeah. Derek, that's such a good question, and it is something that we very, very often deal with. So let's have a look at the scenario of an exclusive use area. When somebody is wanting to improve or add or alter their exclusive use area, it used to need a trustee resolution. It now needs an ordinary resolution. And as part and parcel of that, the members can set reasonable conditions. And as part of those conditions relating to future maintenance and repairs can also be included. So that would deal with an exclusive use area. When it comes to being part of a section that has now been enclosed, you know, again, it should be in your rules that when you are going to erect such a structure, that the responsibility is going to fall on you as the owner. That in essence should be in a management rule, not in the conduct rules, but it all depends on what the Community Scheme Ombud Service will accept or not. I see them in both sets of rules. And then the other thing that you could potentially do is ensure that the enclosure is set into the boundaries or the parameters of the section and not on the median line. You very often see it with balcony enclosures when the glass enclosure is inside of the balustrade that has been pre-existing, because the balustrade would form the median line and then the glass enclosure would be inside the section, 100% the owner's responsibility. So there are some practical ways of getting around it as opposed to only legal, but it definitely does have to be catered for in the rules.
Zelinda, just on that one though, I hear your point regarding the inside the median line, but the boundary for any window, door, or ceiling is termed as the median line. It would be 50-50 owner's responsibility for both replacement cost and repair. So in this case, I think the point is it was non-standard. The complex came out with having open patios, although it formed part of the section. it's now been enclosed. So what, I think for clarity for everybody attending the thing, where does that determine going forward is why would that be different to a window or a back door, for example, or a garage door, which would then be 50-50?
So it wouldn't be unless the rules provide differently, or alternatively, they've built it, behind an existing median line structure, like I said, the balustrade. But if there isn't anything like that, if an owner does build it after the fact, and these enclosures are normally ridiculously expensive, it does most certainly become the median line, and 50% of that responsibility becomes the body corporates. However unfair that might sound, it is what it is, unfortunately. So that's why it's so important to ensure that your rules actually deal with things like enclosures, especially when it comes to balconies, patios, and those types of things. Derek, I know you've got 110 questions. Let's answer a couple from the function.
That's it, done.
Alrighty, fantastic. I also enjoy talking to you. The next question is, if owners want to change to aluminium, who covers the cost? So this is something that I mentioned to Lemise this morning while we were running through her slides, and she said, gee whiskers, that's a topic on its own. If you're looking at replacement of, let's say, wood frames to aluminium, that's an improvement to common property. As Derek very correctly pointed out, you have to look at where that median line is, because it could be a 50-50 responsibility. Alternatively, it could be 100% the owner's responsibility, depending on where it is. There's another question. Lemise, let me know if you want to take it. Where there is a leak from one section to another section, example, a balcony is part of the sections and the balcony is the cause of the leak, should the body corporate get involved, and to what extent? Do we encourage the affected owner to take the culprit owner to the CSOS, or does the body corporate step in to do this? Lemise, I know you know this one because we're busy with about 3 or 4 of them at the moment.
So balcony is part of the section. Balcony is leaking into section below.
Correct.
Which, for argument's sake, is not necessarily a balcony, call it a bedroom.
Okay.
It's an issue between two owners, and if the two owners cannot amicably agree to a solution, then yes, by all means, go to CSOS. That's probably the safest and the cleanest way to do it. And if that balcony is leaking, that owner needs to contact a waterproofer to go and see if the waterproofing underneath the tiles, for example, if that's what is laid down, has failed. But that's an issue between two owners. Body corporate ideally shouldn't get involved.
Fantastic. There is a situation when the body corporate does become involved, and under the old act, it used to simply be a matter of sending a 30-day notice and then the body corporate coming in and recovering the cost. Now, the prescribed management rules actually provide that the stability of the building has to be affected, and multiple sections, in other words, the sections or the residents generally, have to be affected before the body corporate can go in. So it's not a simple matter of the body corporate becoming involved anymore at all. Definitely not. Very good question. There's a comment that there's been notification, or that the person has noticed that insurance are rejecting claims of late. I'm assuming that's to do with obviously the topic of discussion this morning. He has a question specifically from Lemise, from Nicole. Can an owner refuse to pay levies due to a maintenance related issue, as this excuse has been used a lot?
No, an owner can't refuse to pay levies due to maintenance. That's the short answer.
Fantastic. Is there any excuse an owner can use to not pay levies?
Unless they're not an owner anymore, no.
That's a good answer. Very good answer. Here's another question that was sent directly to me. We've just repaired loose balcony balustrades in one of the building's units, and the owner is demanding that we get an appropriate qualified engineer to certify the work has been correctly done at the body corporate's cost. While we're happy to do this, I was just interested to know if this is a legal requirement. Any practical experience there, Lemise? I know if Shirley was online, I don't see her. She would have a couple of things to say, because that was exactly her CSOS application that she dealt with a year or 2 ago.
I didn't hear the full questions, Linda, sorry.
Sorry, no. So if the body corporate has repaired a loose balcony balustrade in one of the building's units, the owner is demanding that they get an appropriate qualified engineer to certify the work has been done correctly at the body corporate's cost. Is this something the body corporate should be expected to do?
I don't see why it would be unreasonable to have some kind of certification that the balustrade is in order.
Well, I think the first thing that we have to look at is, the person mentioned that it's a loose balcony balustrade in one of the building's units. So is the balustrade within the median line? Is the balustrade the median line? Was it the body corporate responsibility? If the body corporate has used the correct contractor, there shouldn't be a need to get any qualified engineer out to look at that. It could be an occupational health and safety situational risk. And I know if anybody's interested, I'll get Shirley to share her successful CSOS adjudication order, where it came to handrails down a flight of stairs in her sectional title scheme, and how complicated that ended up becoming simply from an occupational health and safety perspective. So it could be a legal requirement. It just depends on where it is, and of course who the contractor was and what the level of work was that was done. On sliding doors, who is responsible for the cost of the sliding wheels when replaced arising from wear and tear? Again, I suppose it depends on the median line, but Lemise, practically speaking, I would say that it's also 50-50. What do you think?
I would agree with that. Yes, it would be 50-50 between the owner and the body corporate. But then interestingly enough, Zelinda, Melissa's question, which is the next one, asks about 50-50 splitting, where if it is an aesthetic change, not a change due to repair needed or wear and tear, is it fair the owner should pay the full amount, or the body corporate pay 50% of the cost of original material, not new material?
Sure, interesting one here. So from that perspective, the trustees are obviously responsible for maintenance and repair and replacement when maintenance and repair is no longer possible. In other words, the item has exceeded its useful life. And that's obviously where the 10-year maintenance, repair and replacement plan comes in. So from an aesthetic purpose or reason, it is most certainly not maintenance, repair or replacement. That would be an improvement. And that's something we often deal with the replacement from wooden window frames to aluminium, especially when the wooden window frames have not yet exceeded their useful life. So again, you'd have to have a look at the reason for it. But if it's simply aesthetic, it's definitely not something that the body corporate can do. The body corporate then would not contribute towards it. And if the owner is going to push for it to be done, it would most certainly need to be in a rule that it would be the owner's 100% responsibility to do. And very often you'll find the case, and I'm sure Lemise is a managing agent who dealt with it quite often, the owner has simply done it and asked for forgiveness afterwards as opposed to permission before. Yeah. On a change of window frame from, and I think this is exactly what we've just spoken about, on a change of window frame from, let's say, wood to aluminium, this should first be taken to all owners as it is as an aesthetic matter. Secondly, as this is costing the body corporate, which should not be for the benefit of only one, but for all. I think that's more of a comment, quite right. Here's a question from Lorraine. Can an owner be forced to change his window from wood to aluminium? Lemise, have you got any practical experience with that?
No, most of the body corporates that we dealt with, as you said, owners would have just gone ahead and done the change themselves without asking for permission. Body corporates that I've managed, they didn't force anybody to change their windows from wood to aluminium.
I think it most certainly can be forced in inverted commas, if the wood has, exceeded its useful life. And, from one of the pictures that you showed in your presentation, there was the correct way to install window frames.
Yeah.
And one can imagine over time, with wood deteriorating, it's going to result in, I'm not going to use the correct wording now, but like some type of water ingress. And unfortunately, that is going to have an impact on the body corporates. So a body corporate in that way then can force its owners to ensure that there is a replacement from wood to aluminium in that type of scenario. In other words, when the wood is completely falling apart, can no longer be repaired and maintained. And then, of course, the maintenance route would be easier with aluminium and, of course, cheaper as well.
And that's also something that they could add to their 10-year maintenance plan.
Definitely. Heather mentions if it is an improvement, it would require a resolution, wouldn't it? Definitely. So one would need to, again, refer to the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act. An improvement can either be reasonably necessary or not reasonably necessary. If it is not reasonably necessary, it would need a unanimous resolution. If it is reasonably necessary, it would need a 30-day notice. And if any one owner during that 30-day notice period objects, a special general meeting will need to be called and a special resolution would need to be passed. Some question that I wanted to ask Amy is when it comes to your maintenance, repair, and replacement plan, I very often find that trustees are okay to put it in place, but it's the updating that's a bit of an issue. From Mirfin's side of things, or the service offering, is this something that is offered on a continual basis, the updating of maintenance, repair, and replacement plans?
So our 10-year plan offering comes with the values after the valuer has visited the property and done his full inspection. So it comes with the figures you need, but we really do emphasize that this is an approximate figure. It's really up to the trustees of the body corporate to work with those figures and adjust it on a need-to-know basis. So we really do give them the template and a foundation to work from, but we do emphasize that they do need to work with it so it can suit their body corporate needs and financial capabilities.
Fantastic. We've got one or two more questions. What about a repair of an external washing line at a unit which has been installed by the developer and becomes worn because of use by residents and now has to be replaced, regarded as common property and for the account of the body corporate, or reasoned that the resident caused the wear and tear? That's an interesting one. I'm going to take it that it's an external washing line that has been installed on the common property. That would be with any type of common property. If it has exceeded its useful life, no longer can be repaired or maintained, that needs to be replaced. And then, of course, the cost of it is the body corporate's account. If you're going to have a washing line in your exclusive use area or section, that's then your responsibility as an owner, obviously looking at the rules to see whether or not that's allowed. Another question, may an owner fit reflective film to inside of their exterior facing windows to prevent people seeing inside their unit without getting permission from the trustees? Lamise, this is something that you're dealing with more and more when we're looking at amendments of rules. What is your view on that?
Can I say that we do include it in our draft set of rules?
What do we include? That it's allowed or not allowed?
Oh, Zelinda, why do you always put me on the spot like this?
Well, it's not allowed in a lot of set of rules that we do, simply because, you know, again, I'm not the technical one with it, but a lot of these reflective films or tintings or things tend to look a little bit shabby when they're put on, and of course over time starts deteriorating as well. And one has to look from an aesthetic appearance. You know, if you had to look at the building, that probably will stick out like a sore thumb. But if your rules don't not allow it, then I'm sure that it wouldn't be a problem. That being said, you'd need to get the consent of the trustees ahead of time. So always look at your rules first and foremost, and then of course make application to your trustees. Laura asked, then the plan can be further adjusted. I think that might be a continuation. Yeah, the plan can be further adjusted in the general meeting as the members approve the plan. Oh, for the maintenance, repair, and replacement plan. Quite right. Of course, the maintenance, repair, and replacement plan, although it's prepared by the trustees with the assistance of the likes of Mirfin, for example, the members do have to approve it. It's not something that necessarily has to be done at the annual general meeting. Interestingly enough, the Act only speaks about general meeting, so it could be a special general meeting. But the fact that it affects the budget, the reserve fund, or the administrative fund, it just makes logical sense for it to be tabled at the annual general meeting as well. One last question I think we're going to take, and then we'll see if there's any verbal questions, and then we'll end off for the day, is can trustees insist that only white curtains or curtain lining be visible from the outside? That's another one that we very often do put in our rules. Yeah. Some people are completely against it and other people are completely for it. And we very often get strange looks when we do ask the question as to whether or not the trustees want to dictate what the lining would be. We generally say a neutral color. We don't want to be too specific, but remember, this isn't the curtains, it's simply the lining, and that is what you're seeing from outside of the scheme. So along with that, we can speak about blinds, we can speak about that reflective tinting and foiling, we can speak about, gee whiskers, what did we do in that set of rules yesterday? I think we said specifically it needs to be perforated blinds. It really all depends on the scheme. The reason that I like to put those rules in place is to avoid a situation where somebody puts cardboard boxes in the window or a South African flag or something along those lines, which very often happen, or like a sheet. If you don't have those rules in place, then unfortunately you can't enforce it at all. Ladies and gents, there are still 1 or 2 questions coming in on the chat function, but is there anybody that would like to mention something, would like to comment? Perhaps use the opportunity now to ask Mirfin a couple of questions. You're more than welcome to pop your hand up. Everyone's quite quiet this morning. Sandra, you've got your hand up.
Hi, yes, thank you, Zelinda. Just a quick question, not related to what we discussed today, but is it a requirement now to include your plans of the complex in your rules in terms of where your water, sewage, electricity, and fiber lines are? Thinking about this, think about it in the sense of if something were to happen to me today, someone taking over tomorrow doesn't know where anything is. So is it something feasible that we have to have in the plans attached to our rules?
I don't believe that something like that is going to be accepted by CSOS if you had to attach it to the rules. The only plan that you would attach to the rules is your exclusive use area layout plan if you're creating exclusive use areas in terms of the rules. But I think from building plan perspective, so all the services are, I'd be interested to hear what Derek says about that, because Derek, I know that that's exactly in line with what you do from a compliance perspective. Would you like to comment on that? Nope.
Sorry, Zelinda, just say that again. The internet reception is messing around, so you're bouncing in and out.
No problem. Sandra was just saying, is it not a good idea to have the building plans, or at least the plan showing the services, the electrical layout, the plumbing layout, attached to the rules? I said, I don't believe that it's something the CSOS will approve as part of the rules, but surely that is something the body corporate should have on record. I mean, I know that I've asked you once or twice, you know, how that information works and where to get it and things like that. What is your view on having that type of plan as part of the records of the body corporate?
But that would be part of your sectional title, your sectional plan anyway.
I think it goes more specific to like plumbing and piping and things like that, which won't be on the sectional plan.
Yeah, look, depending on which the complex is. I mean, especially if it's shared usage, that will most definitely be on the plans. The question is that too much detail in the rules can confuse it, and you know, a lot of time trustees don't quite understand what it is and ask too much questions. You know, questions get asked, and trustees often get placed in a position where they get posed questions, and we need to understand, I mean, that they volunteer in their position, they're not the experts. So I wouldn't confuse it. They do need to have it. It is mandatory, yes, on file. But I think that would go from complex to complex, and where necessary, where it's important, then dealt with. But in my view, I wouldn't include it.
Fantastic. Cole, you've got your hand up.
I've got a question. Maybe Lamise can help me with it. Adjoining units. There's a service duct between the two, which is common property. The sewage pipes for the two adjoining units all run into a gully, which is in the duct, which is communal property. Then the sewage pipe runs through the one section outside to the unit and joins into the main sewage line that serves all the sections. Now, I do agree that the section of sewage pipes and the gully, which falls in the service ducts, is body corporate responsibility. But the point where that sewage pipe, although it's a shared pipe between two units, enters the one unit and runs in that one unit, will that section of pipe be body corporate or owner? I'm of the opinion that it's owner's expense because it runs in their units. They are of the opinion that it's body corporate because it's a sewage pipe.
Denise, you want to jump on that one?
Yeah, there are service, what did I call it, Cylinder? There are services that run through sections that supply or provides services to other sections. So I think that sewage pipe that runs through that section would be for body corporate, not for the owner.
Yeah, it's that ridiculous, and I speak about it almost every second day. The pipes, wires, cables provision in Section 3 of the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act, where it speaks about first and foremost any pipes, wires, or cables on the land, existing on the land. And if you look at the definition of land, land is common property, sections, exclusive use areas, rented common property, etc., etc. So land is very general. And then it speaks about these pipes running over the land. So in other words, in a section or exclusive use area or common property. Please excuse my German Shepherd in the background, very jealous that I'm not giving any attention. Serving or capable of serving more than one section, or running through a section serving common property or another section. So there's quite a few provisions that it applies for, but basically, Carl, the scenario that you're talking about, because of where it runs and because of its purpose, it is most certainly common property. I do definitely understand where your logic is coming from, that if that portion alone is serving a section, it should be the owner's responsibility, but that's not quite entirely the case. One could have a look at potentially mitigation of damages. So in other words, has the owner done something to cause a blockage or a leak or a failure of that pipe, and potentially the body corporate would have a claim against that owner if it's provided for in the rules, alternatively through the CSOS or through court. So that is definitely something that they can have a look at. We've got one or two more questions I think we're going to take before we end off for the day. When a new complex is developed and the body corporate has to do a snag list, how does the body corporate trustees or owners put pressure on the developer to have the maintenance items fixed? With a lot of luck, I suppose. I'm in year 3 of my homeowners association and I'm still fighting with the developer. So unfortunately, there really isn't much one can do to put pressure on the developer. And our experience is very often that after the development period, the developer no longer exists, quite practically. But if it is something that affects the body corporate as a whole or many owners, the body corporate most certainly can become involved in that process to assist. Do we have any developers or anybody that works with new developments here that would like to weigh in on that question? Ruth, if she's still online, I know she does do a lot of work with a lot of developers. Maybe she's got a comment there.
Ruth's quiet.
Quiet. All right, last question. In registered exclusive use areas, are the owners responsible for the maintenance of gutters, downpipes, and drains? So when it comes to an exclusive use area, the body corporate is responsible for the maintenance and repair of any of the exclusive use area or the services in the exclusive use area. The owner is responsible for the costs. But again, we have to look at where are those gutters, downpipes, and drains? Do they serve multiple sections or exclusive use areas of the common property? And that will dictate that it's then common property and the responsibility of the body corporate. All right, I see we do have quite a few questions that have come in. I'm going to make sure that I've copied that and make those answers available. The slides that Amy provided as well as Lemise will be made available as well as a recording of this. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us this morning on behalf of Lemise and Amy as well. Thank you so much for presenting today. If there are any other questions, you're more than welcome to pop us a mail or give us a shout afterwards. But thank you very much for your time and have a lovely day further.